Good morning, everybody. Hope that you all had a nice weekend and looking forward to the week ahead. It's a public holiday over here in Vietnam today, although I'll be spending most of the day working it. But for those of you that are off, enjoy because they don't come along that often, as you know. So if we have a look at what happened last week in the markets, we saw positivity across the board, led by the Asian markets. The Nikkei in particular we saw was up 6.3%. Shanghai was up 3.1%. We also saw some nice moves in Europe, with the DAX up 4.5% and the FTSE was up 2.3%. America, the gains were slightly less, albeit it was still a positive week, and we saw both the Dow and the Nasdaq up the same. They were both up 1.8% on the week. Now, if we look at the bundle of four that I always talk about, 2 weeks in a row now we've seen it not perform as well as the Nasdaq, and the bundle of four would have made you 1.3% against a 1.8% gain on the Nasdaq last week. The main reason for that is Facebook has struggled, and I know because I bought some Facebook personally not so long ago, only last week, and already I'm sort of 4% down. So you've seen a little bit of a dip there, but again, longer term, as I'm going to talk about later on in this briefing, you're certainly going to be sound owning shares in a company as big as that. Now, if we're looking at the currencies, we saw the sterling dollar round about flat for the week, still 142. Again, Brexit's quite a way off, or the Brexit vote is quite a way off, but there's a lot of political rhetoric going around now about, the fors and the against, and it's not until the 25th of June. Some commentators fearing that we could see the pound go as low as 125 if Britain was to leave the European Union. But again, like I've stressed before, I still think longer term play, couple of years, things will settle down. I think if you're buying your pounds at 142 right now, I think you're going to get a good deal. We saw the dollar improve against the euro, 1.1%. It's now set at 113, and we continue to have an exceptionally strong Japanese yen at only 108 to the US dollar, which isn't good for Japan, given that it relies a lot on exports and it's making those exports expensive. Now, I touched just before on Facebook and not having a particularly good week and dragging the bundle down, and me sort of personally having a slight paper loss on that. But if you look at companies like that and Amazon, they are so forward thinking. I mean, we think those of you that know me know that I'm always talking about developing world and people coming out of poverty, and how there's a lot of people out there that don't have the same access to the same things that us in the developed world do, and as they do come out of poverty, they're going to spend their money in the same way. I found out the other day that actually there's 4 billion people on the planet, which is over half, that don't have internet access. Now, some of that, of course, is that they can't afford it, the poverty factor, but a large chunk of that, up to half of them, so 2 billion people, is due to the fact that there simply is no internet access. So you've got Facebook and Amazon and a couple of the other, Google, a couple of the other big companies like that, focusing on putting drones in place to provide internet access to these people. So this kind of plays into my thematic way of investing, that you have these big companies which are going to continue to grow. So that there's a huge untapped market there, and again, talking about these companies, Unilever saw its sales up again over 8% in the last quarter, and a lot of that's focused on the emerging markets. Already over 60% of their sales comes from the EM. They're looking, Pullman, the boss there, is looking at aiming for 90% in the future. So that shows how bullish he is on those sorts of areas. The sport over the weekend, we had the World Snooker starting, which I enjoy very much. Saw my team, West Ham, almost derail Leicester. Bit unlucky again, but again, Leicester showed that spirit, and I would say now that they would pretty much have to have a bit of a disaster to not, make the greatest footballing story in generations, and good luck to them. Just to talk about the big boys, an interesting fact that I heard, that Chelsea were playing Manchester City this weekend. Of course, two of the well-known big boys, and the value of the players on that pitch, or the cost of the players, probably not the value right now, the way some of them are playing, was £463 million. That's an incredible amount of money. So anyway, going to wrap it up now because I realise that I've just gone over my 5 minutes already. But there's a couple of facts that I want you to know about, which are scary again, which is why you need to be saving. And that is 74% of Americans expect to continue to have to work after retirement. Not much fun, that. And a quote for today actually comes from the photographer, David Bailey. And, obviously he's one of the greatest well-known photographers of all time, but he was also, known to have a few quirky lines and be rather an outspoken character. And one of his comments is, to get rich, you have to be making money while you sleep. Well, guess what? Guess how you do that? You get sound investments. You make sure your money works for you. You know where I am. Please get in touch. Look forward to it. Have a nice week. See you later.